greenhouse people? We are back with another episode of Tech on Demand, where our goal is to help you grow your best crops ever. I'm your host, Bill Calkins, and throughout 2026, I've been catching up with different people in the professional horticulture space to find out a little bit about their careers, passions, journeys in the world of plants, and much more. Calling these conversations Pick 4 because I sent each guest a list of 12 questions, and you guessed it, they picked 4 to answer. But today I'm excited to be joined by one of my absolute favorite people in the industry, someone I've been friends with for a very long time, someone I actually met and then visited her garden center and gave a talk after my truck broke down on the highway and I had to change a tire. Do you remember that, Kate? First time I showed up to your garden center, I'm covered in grease.
It was like 10 below. It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was like a blizzard.
Yeah, it was cold. Yeah. And I do remember that. I was trying to think when that was. It was before, because you were talking about an anniversary on another podcast, and I was like, we were friends before you got married.
Oh, yeah. This was back. You had 3 stores. You guys were.
Right.
Yeah. This was back. I think the burpee vegetables. I think that's what I was coming to talk about, to do like a consumer event talking about vegetables, which you know infinitely more about them than I do. So I was feeling pretty little imposter syndrome.
Burpee vegetables is how I met Seth.
Yeah, it's true.
So there's a funny story about that too. But so I don't know.
The good old days,
I guess. Yeah.
But I think the point is we have been friends for a very long time. This is Kate Terrell from Wallace's Garden Center in Bettendorf, Iowa. And I was thinking, like, how do I describe you? I'd say you're kind of an industry icon at this point. You head up a family business, you grow and sell plants, but you do so much more. You're active in industry leadership roles. You write articles. You're on every committee and board known to man. And then every time I talk to you, you're doing something new in your own local community, like whether it's Chamber of Commerce stuff. Like, I don't know how you find enough hours in the day to do all this.
Yeah, I just joined the board of the Chamber of Commerce like 6 months ago. We had a board meeting this morning. And so, I've gotten, more involved in the business community and like the economic development of our area and finding more of that. Like, if you don't try to find out, then you don't know what's going on, and decisions are happening all around your business, but like you have no input because you didn't show up to the meeting. So I started showing up now, and and the chamber, has actually been a really good thing. So I
got a really good piece of advice once from someone in our industry, Bill Rupert in St. Louis, and he told me the world is run by those who show up. And I think that's true, especially in city politics and city sort of legislative decision making. If you're there, you're part of the discussion.
Yeah, 100%. Like right after I joined the board and they voted and I got installed on the board, I think 2 weeks later they emailed me, the government affairs person, and he said, hey, we're having a roundtable with the governor about property taxes, and she wants to hear from local business. Can you come to this meeting with the governor? And I'm like, let's do it.
Mycorrhizal Applications is recognized as the master distributor of a portfolio of biological and botanical plant support solutions and the world's leading supplier of mycorrhizal soil inoculants. Backed by industry-leading research and advanced production, they deliver innovative products that support plant health, performance, and vigor. They're known across the industry for popular brands like MycoApply, AmiloShield, and Debug. Mycorrhizal Applications offers proven solutions tailored to every growing operation. To learn more or find a distributor, visit mycorrhiza.com.
So, just like the wheels start turning the second you're like, yep, I'm gonna be involved and have a voice. So
was your dad involved like in city legislative stuff? Like, I mean, I know that it's a family business, but I just wonder, like, did you get that from him, or was he like, no, keep me out of that?
No, he was always like, before I was involved working with him, he kind of was always fighting the city because they, were never would approve the permits he needed, or they were always, giving him a hard time about signage, and it just was a really contentious relationship. And then when we started doing business together, we were kind of good cop, bad cop, where he was like the hammer that would fit. And then I was the one that was trying to like schmooze everybody and stuff. And then in the last few years, like we been doing a lot of construction and improvements. And having the city people, like you is immensely helpful. And
I bet.
things happen a lot faster when you have a relationship with city officials,
Yeah,
period.
that makes sense. That makes sense. And it's cool
Yeah.
that you've been able to figure that out. Although I know you're pretty tough. So schmoozing, but also probably being the hammer a little bit yourself. So
Yeah. So it's
cool.
good to get people's cell phone numbers instead of just trying to get their government office phone number.
There you go. No, that's really good advice. I think for any business people who are listening to this, that's very wise advice. No, that's really cool. And before we hit record, we were talking about spring. So you guys had a good spring this year?
We did. It started off scary. Like we had lots of cold and up and down. And I think we came in 4 or 5 times to like spray for frost. And then it was 85 degrees for a week in April and everything was blowing out. And so then you're bringing in all this product early and then it gets cold again. And so our April was down. And my dad's always said it's 3 months. It might be March, April, May. It might be April, May, June, but it's 3 months. So we play with that playbook. And then May, really straightened out for us. And we had great weather in May. We're still having great weather for June. It's going to heat up next week, but
Right.
we've had regular rain and cool temperatures and low humidity. So people are still planting and excited.
Cool.
So yeah, I think we're up maybe 7% last time I really
That's
ran the
awesome.
numbers. So yeah, we'll take it. We'll take
For
that.
sure. For sure. Yeah, I think up 7% in this type of economic climate, that's solid. That's something to be pretty happy about, for sure.
Yeah. Some of that is price increases. When I
Good.
shake down the unit volume at the end of second quarter, we'll see where things really are. But
Yeah,
yeah, our traffic has been up, our average sales been up, so we were trending in all the right directions.
good. And then couple that with increasing prices. That's the formula right there. I like it. That's cool.
Yeah.
So are you ready to get into the 4 questions that you
Let's
picked?
do it. Yes. I know. I
All right.
actually really thought about it and wrote down answers. So
Cool. Well, I've always said people who practice are the best. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but, all right.
I was just procrastinating, not doing something else probably, but
That's fine. Well, good. I'm glad you prioritized this. All right. Question number 1, and I'm actually a little bit nervous where you're going with
yeah.
this, but
Oh,
that's all right. I can
yeah.
clip that out.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Question number 1, I'm actually a little nervous where you're going with this one, but what is something about professional horticulture that annoys you and how would you change it?
And I have 2 things.
Okay.
So, because I couldn't decide. So one is more probably retail specific and one is more industry specific. So for retail specific, it is, like being a second generation person, I think we do a terrible job in highlighting the benefits of a job in retail or grower retail versus I worked 7 days a week. I didn't have a day off in May and, I have to come in and spray. And it's kind of this badge of honor of how hard you're working and, the things that you're doing to keep your crops going and checking heaters in the middle of the night. And I think younger generations and even our kids look at how hard that is and they think, why on earth would I ever want? And then, but what they don't see or have, when I get home, I don't talk about I was the first one at the garden center this morning and I parked in the back and I walked up through the greenhouse as it was totally full of plants before it was open. And it's the sun's coming up and it's this peaceful, beautiful thing. And my husband works for John Deere corporate. He does not walk into the office through this aisle of, flowers and hanging baskets. And so that kind of thing. And then being a business owner, yes, I work a ton of hours. I also have the power to be on the Chamber of Commerce if I want, to volunteer for American Hort Board, to go to a conference. I have the flexibility to leave early for my son's football game. And so I think we do a bad job of explaining how awesome it is to be an entrepreneur or a business owner or to work in that industry because we're so busy highlighting how hard we work and the nitty-gritty of the labor part, and we don't convey the joy very well.
I think you're right. It's a badge of honor that it's sort of a self-imposed badge of honor to, to grind it out and work the 70-hour weeks. And, that is required sometimes, but you're right. The benefits, I mean, there's a lot of people in our industry, so the benefits must outweigh the negatives, or people would just leave, like immediately. And we have a lot of really long-term people. No, I think that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, I teach junior achievement like February, March, and I teach a fifth grade level, which is a lot about entrepreneurship and innovation. And so we talk about the benefits of being an entrepreneur, and we talk about the risks and the
Mhm.
negatives. And then I have them list the positives. And then I always have them do the negatives first. And then it kind of looks like, oh gosh, why would you ever want to start your own business? And then
Yeah,
when they really start to think about what the positives are, all of a sudden that list gets longer. And
right.
so but it's an exercise that we as individuals in the industry probably need to do for ourselves, because there's way more awesome things about our jobs than there are hard things. Otherwise, like if it wasn't an awesome job, I wouldn't be able to come to work 7 days a week in May. Like
True.
you wouldn't. So
Yeah,
that is
very
my
true.
first annoyance with the industry. And it's easily fixable, right? Like just
Yeah.
start talking about the good things, talk about the positive things, start brag on yourself a little bit.
Right.
And then my second thing is industry wide. And actually have my brother has a horticulture degree and he works for a subsidiary of BASF. And so kind of in the large ag side of the industry, vegetable industry. And we've had this talk before, and it is the way our industry does this terrible job on messaging and the way we waffle between being this like his, American Gothic, like red barn, grandma's garden, like old fashioned thing where we grow flowers and vegetables. And that's what people think when you say, oh, I'm in horticulture, or I sell plants, or I breed plants. They're thinking of that. And then, or as an industry, are we this super high tech, cutting edge, and when you go to cultivate, or when you even just walking in your own business, like the technology that we have and the innovation
Mhm.
that happens every single year, like we don't celebrate that enough. I think sometimes we're afraid to give up that like kind of, nostalgic Norman Rockwell version of having a little roadside greenhouse
Yeah.
versus, look at this cool irrigation system that we have to water our plants, and look at how we're monitoring and doing pest management. And so that's probably my biggest annoyance is
Mm.
this, like, we kind of can't decide our identity. And I think it needs to be both, but also it's hard to be taken seriously by government, by investment, if they don't see that, we're embracing technology and innovating. I mean, look at how many greenhouses like have invented their own, transplanter or
Mhm.
cutting sorter. They don't have a machine that does what they want, so they make one. Like
Yeah.
that type of innovation is awesome. And so I think we do a poor job of letting people know, like, yeah, we're not just like country bumpkin farmers. Like there
Right.
are some really smart people, real talent that are literally changing agriculture.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think
I don't
that's
like that duplicity that we have.
right. And I've said it for years that our industry could benefit from, like, remember that show on History Channel, Modern Marvels, and they would go in and like
Or
show like the high tech, like transportation logistics, and they'd show like how it's all
yes,
driven by computers and data and algorithms, and they'd go into these like big, computer rooms of people like
yes,
planning, transit and everything for planes and trucking. And I'm like, I feel like you could go into a greenhouse, like a Metrolina or a Green Circle, or really any high tech greenhouse, even like some university greenhouse or research greenhouses, and
yes,
show like some of the coolest technology. Like, we're using drones to like, shoot down insects and
right,
stuff like that. Like, they're, and then think about it globally, like what's going on in greenhouses in Europe, and it's really amazing. But you're right, we do get that perception of that rundown guy selling flowers up the road,
right,
out of a barn. And I agree, there is nostalgia to that, and there is charm to the average local greenhouse. But you're right, it sometimes can paint a one-sided picture of our industry to the folks that are making big time decisions and grant money and where research is going and
right.
stuff.
Yeah. So just more of like claiming our, our rightful place in everything. I mean, we grow food and flowers and green plants, and that's never not going to be important. And
Right.
so, and with climate change and all of that. And so, and it's also attracting younger, more people into the industry to keep it going as we age out. Like if you aren't high tech, if you're not embracing some of this, like they're just not going to be quite as interested. So
Right.
it's, for longevity's sake, it's important to embrace that as well.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the sustainability efforts and, biosolutions and, using good bugs to fight bad bugs. Like that's exciting stuff that, yeah,
Yes.
is a good story to tell. No, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So there's probably a million little things that annoy me about the industry, but it's, that's
I'm
for
just
another.
glad you didn't start naming suppliers that have driven you crazy this year because that could have gotten
Yeah,
ugly.
I definitely, that could be, yeah, like a blacklist, like, and that changes, right? That
Right.
changes. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
that changes
Cool.
for sure.
All right. On to
Yeah,
question number 2, which I'm actually really excited to hear. Not a lot of people have picked this because I think
I
it's tough
know. Well,
to
it's kind
to
of boring.
to hang your hat on certain things. But what are your top 3 favorite annuals and top 3 favorite perennials?
Three favorite perennials. So originally I am a perennial person. So
Yep.
when I finished college, I ran the perennial department at a nursery in Chicago, Chalet Nursery, shout out. And so I was a perennial person for a long time. And then annuals, I grew up growing annuals. And so thinking about it now, it's a lot different, you know, it changes a lot.
Hmm.
So mine are kind of like boring. And I kind of went to like the tried and true annuals for me. I love doing pots on my deck. I have deer, rabbits. I have all the things. I have owls, I have foxes. And I have a busy, mom life, and so I
Yep.
need stuff that's going to perform and look good because people know where I live and they know
That's
what
true.
stuff is mine. So one of mine is dragonwing begonia. I feel like every house I've had shade, and that dragonwing, it's no fail. Like it blooms forever. It gets big and like, just big and bossy and fills up. And it's something like I know I can recommend to any customer and they're going to be successful, like
Yeah.
no matter what. Like they're just gonna, when they're like, oh, I kill everything or nothing blooms in the shade. I know I can sell them dragonwing and like, ta-da, like,
Yeah.
and
They're gonna be
and next year they're
successful.
gonna be back and be like, oh my God, you were right. That was awesome. Still original red is my jam. I like pink too. White, I don't think they have it yet, but
Yeah.
that's me with dragonwing. So dragonwing's one of mine. And then as a category, sun patience. That's as a business owner, like just, it's like printing money to grow sun patience. But again, it's another one when you ask a customer, do you have sun or shade? And they're like, I don't know.
Right.
It's like,
No, it's true.
here, try a sun patient and it's going to bloom and it's got those big audacious blooms and they're just, yeah, they're easy to get now. Lots of colors. So you can
Hmm.
do kind of almost any color scheme with them. So you can trade them up. So they're super, super versatile. And I love the foliage is like dark green. It's lush and it just like fills a container instantly. Yesterday we went out to a customer's house, planted all these pots up. They're having a huge wedding and everything's white and green. And we have white sun patients and white New Guineas and white impatiens and white diamond frost and
Yeah.
everywhere. And like in all the pictures we took, those sun patients just pop. They're just massive. So that is one. And then I actually have 4 annuals. My next one is black and blue salvia.
Okay.
I'm a
Yeah.
hummingbird. I'm a hummingbird junkie. I love hummingbirds. I live for them. I think that's that like midlife female crisis of like I watch birds now. And so black and blue salvia. There's not a hummingbird plant I think that's better. Like I swear to God, they go for that one first and
Yep.
often all the time. So anyways, my last one is Garden Meister fuchsia, which is like
Okay.
super old fashioned, but again, I have shade. I love hummingbirds and it's like, it's tall and you can plant stuff all around it. And it's one that like, it's been around forever, but when you show it to a customer, they're like, I've never seen this before. And
That's a
which is
wild card. I wasn't expecting that one.
strange. I know. Well, I have 2 like 4-foot window boxes that just sit on my deck on this terrace.
Hmm.
And I plant those every year with Garden Meister fuchsia and sun patience.
Yeah.
And and the hummingbirds just go to it all the time. And yeah, it's a favorite of mine. I use it. Like I said, I have a lot of shade. And so
Hmm.
I've embraced a lot of shade.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
then perennials, I have changed a ton. Like if you would have asked me when I was when I was managing perennials for the chalet, I would have had all these like really obscure things and things you don't see very often. And, like bug bane that has this
Hmm.
awesome fragrance. But again, now I'm like in this phase of I want it to be long blooming. It's like a customer. I want it
Right.
to be resistant. I want it to be reliably hardy and not fussy. And as much as I like plants, I don't spend a lot of time gardening. So
Yeah. You don't want to baby them. You want them to
secret.
work.
So one of my first ones is allium, like whether it's allium millennium or serendipity or bubbles or any of those. I have deer. It's long blooming, it's drought tolerant. It's deer resistant. Like it just has kind of all these things. You can get different heights. So another versatile plant that is going to be a no fail for a customer. So I love that one. Shasta daisies. I always tell my customers every garden needs to have a daisy.
Yep.
That's that old fashioned garden farmer in me.
Yep.
It's like every perennial garden needs to have daisies in it, period. And Shasta daisies are one that are a perennial that blooms like an annual. And so they give you this flower power. They do it in the first year and they're just, they're easy to grow for people. There's a lot of different, heights and flower forms out there. So that is a great one for me. And then my last one is super old fashioned is iris. And I don't know where that comes from. I think part of it is like the whole, that in Greek, iris means rainbow and that irises come in every color. And whenever you mention irises, people always have like a memory.
Right. I was about to say you remember it from grandma's garden. Like I remember I remember digging out chunks of irises from my grandma's garden and bringing them to my mom's garden when I was little.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's one of those plants, like a hosta or daylily that is shared. And so, and it's like, this pass it on type thing, which is something that I still love about gardeners and the old fashionedness of that in that people, I dug up and I divided my irises and I gave some to my friend and some to my neighbor. So I think that's what I like about iris is and they're much more interesting than hosta or daylilies to me. So that was my last perennial.
That's a great assortment. Like I love all those plants. I probably have never had an allium though. I know what they are. I've sold allium, back in my garden center days, but I don't think I've ever had alliums in our yard. And now I want to try it.
Yeah, one of them was like the perennial plant of the year a couple years ago. And so then of course, everybody wanted that one. And then all of a sudden, everybody, proven winners got, alliums and then other breeders, all of a sudden everybody has an allium now. And so, and they're not expensive. That's the other thing, right? Like they're not tissue culture or, there's some really cool perennials out there, really cool coneflowers, but they're all TC. And so they get cost prohibitive for people after a while. So.
No, it's true. No, that's a great assortment. I love it. I love it. Thanks. You're such a good plant person, but I like that you think like a consumer now that your lifestyle dictates that.
Right? Cool. Yes. I know. I finally have reached being my target demographic.
Exactly. You're a birder and you're looking for long-lasting, long-blooming perennials instead of the niche weird ones. Love it.
Right? Yes. And,
all right. Third question, and I feel like you've probably given this advice in your life, but I'm interested to hear how you approach this. What advice would you give to a young person considering the pursuit of a career in horticulture? And part of it's probably what we were talking about earlier is, it's not all 70-hour weeks, but so you're talking to a young person about a career, horticulture. What are you telling them?
Yes. So, well, I already talk to young people about careers in horticulture because we have interns here but I'm a merit badge counselor for scouting for the gardening merit badge and the plant science merit badge. And they have to research careers for every merit badge that they do. And so I've started really done some deep dives on seedyourfuture.org, which I'm sure you've been on a million times. I swear I share that website with every young person I know now because it's such a good one-stop shop to to just show them the variety that's out there and the massive numbers of things. Like if you want to work with plants, you don't have to be a grower. You don't have to be a personal gardener. You don't have to work at a botanic garden. Like there's so many other jobs and career paths in there. And Seed Your Future is the great, first place to go to explore that. And then it's your jumping off point of okay, this looks really interesting. Where do I go from there? So that was one of mine. And then depending on I think back to way back when I grew up in the industry. So I was not led to horticulture. I just, woke up, on third base here in the horticulture. And, but my dad used to take me, I don't know if you remember that Ball used to do this grower expo.
Hmm.
You remember that in
Yeah.
Chicago?
Yeah.
And I remember going in high school with my dad and we were walking around this little trade show and he's picking up grower talks and other trade press and like catalogs and he's like, you should read this, you should subscribe to this, so I'm still that way. Like if you're in high school and have an interest in growing or greenhouse technology, you should be a subscriber to the email newsletters or the magazine itself. And I do tell, like, especially the interns I have or the college students at the local community college, like, you can go to trade shows. There's a student rate. It's not expensive.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like some of your professors might even pay for you to go, like, and just go and be in it and walk around and don't be afraid to ask questions and just pick up information. And you may read it and you may not, you may throw it away, but just getting that feel and being around people that are in that industry is huge. And then my biggest one is probably more for college students is to do at least one internship. So
Hmm.
our local community college, they feed us interns like crazy. They're required to do, I think it's a 10-week internship. And I did 3 when I was in college. And it's a great way to find out, like, you know what? I thought I wanted to be a grower. No, I don't. And, I did a landscape internship and found out real fast that I did not want to be in landscape at
Yeah.
all. Like I was like, this is not for me. And so, and I interned at Ball as well. And that was in the marketing department.
Hmm.
And you make connections and you learn a lot. And again, it's more about, seeing what's in the industry because we have such a funnel of what actually gets to the public. And so they don't understand the opportunities. So those are kind of my big ones. But
Those are all good pieces of advice. I like that. Expose yourself to different parts of the industry and folks in our industry are happy to talk, right? Like
yeah,
if you ask a question, you're going to get, someone's going to talk your ear off about that and they're going to have deep knowledge and you're going to leave that conversation more excited than when you went in. I generally.
yeah. So, and then I'm going to pass off one more piece of advice to young people, and it's ripped off advice that I took actually when I was an intern at Ball, and towards the end of our internship, all of the interns we had lunch with Anna Ball,
Hmm.
and so we kind of asked her like what advice she had for us going, being brand new in the industry, going into it. And the advice that she gave me was because I came from a family business like her, was to not just go right into working for the
Hmm.
family, but to go work in other parts of the industry, work for someone else besides your own family. And so,
Yeah.
so there is still a lot of people, born into the industry. So my advice would be to absolutely not just focus on your own family business, but to venture out and find out what else is going on.
Yeah, and I think I've met so many people who have done that and others who haven't, and I know how valuable that can be. That's a great bonus piece of advice. Love it. All
Yeah,
right.
it really it informs me now that I'm the boss and I'm
Mm,
the head when I have employees, like, when they have lives and they have issues. And I feel like I'm much more empathetic. I'm much more understanding and just, yeah, like it really, really made a huge difference for me.
that's good. No, I think that's great advice. All right, final question. It's kind of the flip side of number 3.
Yes, it is.
What advice would you give to an industry veteran currently dealing with burnout?
So, right? Is that me? I wrote down in my notes, I said, what age gives you veteran
I
status?
was about to say a veteran can be, and I mean, you were born in the industry, so there's veterans of all ages in our industry.
Right.
Let's say,
There are. I know. I said retail garden center is like measured in dog years, I think, for veterans, because you
yeah,
you get thrown into a lot very, very quickly, also depending on when you get in the season. So I think there's different types of burnout, right? Like I
mhm,
think, you hit the end of May and we all experience some level of just that seasonal burnout. And I was telling you earlier, like I get out of mine very easily as a judge for Young Retailer Award, I get to talk to the nominees at the end of May.
mhm,
And there are these young people in the industry and they have all this energy and vision and excitement and new ideas. And that totally kind of snaps me out of my funk. It's easy to get jaded, kind of every season's different, but also, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And
Right.
so, but also just, talking to, younger people, talking to your own staff, and then also getting out and talking to customers and, getting on the sales floor. And, once you get through the busiest part of the season, all of a sudden you can go out and talk to a customer for 20 minutes and just, really engage with them and see the joy that they are finding. And
Hmm.
then I think that really helps to kind of fizzle out some of that burnout. Other one I always think about is to move on, is to like, okay, what's next? All right, we're planting mums. Okay, poinsettias will be here in 21 days. Like, what we need to sanitize benches. We need to make sure we have the pots going. We need to like it's to snap out and write on to like not so much doing it, but just
Hmm.
getting it planned in your head so you don't feel like it's all of a sudden coming out of nowhere. And so I like to do that and have kind of a reset meeting of like, okay, spring is mostly done. Here's our next season. And just kind of taking that kind of control, I think helps, put away that stress that you carry with you from season to season. One of my phrases I say around here a lot is action absorbs anxiety. And
Mm.
so it's like, okay, let's take action. Let's, move on. So, but that's seasonal burnout. Year after year, certain things get frustrating. I've been doing this. I've been working at my family business for 20 plus years. I've been the owner for 5 now.
Hmm.
And there's things that you get burnout on, like insurance renewals and employee reviews and all that stuff that you're like, no, I got into this because I like plants and I like working with customers. And especially as an owner or like as a manager, all of a sudden you end up that's not what you're doing anymore. And you're like, I never want to have a desk job. And all of a sudden you, as an owner, you have a desk job. And,
Hmm.
and so I have learned a lot lately and from other people in the garden center world is delegate more, like all of a sudden. And I now realize that's what my dad was doing to me when I came back in the business. Like he had me sit down insurance meetings and he was like, okay, you're going to do the insurance now.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to deal with all the accountant stuff. Okay. You're going to deal with all the, make the decision on the POS system. All the stuff he didn't like, he
Hmm.
was handing off to me. And I think it's okay to hand that stuff off. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, well, this is really hard and I need to do it, but you don't. And so I do that in my own landscape too. Like I hate weeding and mulching. I hire a company to come do it. And yeah, can I do it myself? Absolutely. But I hate it. I'd rather plant pots and plant flowers and deadhead and do, the fun gardening stuff. So just kind of unloading some of those things that you don't like doing, or at least parse them out, and have, like I was talking to Jake from Piedmont and he was saying he has like a marketing day and he has, this day in the office and this day on the floor. And that's important to just carve out that time that's just kind of set in stone is one good way. And then also like, we all love going to shows and seeing each other and catching up again, but it's important to do that more often than that once a year in
Yeah.
Columbus. Like I have a couple different like text threads or chats or whatever with different, garden center managers or even some vendor reps where like because all those people know exactly what you're dealing with.
Sure.
We all have the same kind of these shared experiences and shared frustrations. And so, on a particularly hard day, it's great to text another, garden center owner and just be like, what the heck, man? Like, are your customers insane today? Like, and having those peer groups, especially like I said, my husband works in corporate IT. And
Hmm.
so like his challenges at work and my challenges at work are vastly different. And so as much as he'll listen, he doesn't always understand. And so
Right.
having somebody else in the industry that understands and maybe can give advice or just, commiserate or make jokes or whatever is really, really important. And yeah. And then there's some days where you'll find me like, I'll have this mountain of stuff to do. I'll have all these orders to write, all this stuff to do. And you'll find me back in production, like planting flats marigolds.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, nope, this is what I'm doing today. Like I
Right.
want, like it's the middle of production season and I haven't put my hands in the dirt one time. And
Right.
so sometimes, or it's just like, I'm going to go back to greenhouse 10 and water the whole thing myself without interruption.
Hmm.
And
It's
then
like
when you're doing
therapy.
that, yes, it is like therapy. And then you remember why the heck you were doing it in the first place. So
Yeah.
those are my big burnout things is, talk to customers, kind of more connecting, get out of your own head and connect, with either customers, other industry people.
Mhm.
Yeah, go out in your own greenhouse and be in it and don't be in the computer looking at all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like you can change your perspective by
Yeah.
sort of surrounding yourself with different things. I like that idea of sort of, engage with your team, engage with your staff, and you're going to learn fun things. You're going to see a little bit of inspiration or excitement that could just kick you right out of the jaded mentality that we all can get into year after year. I think that's
Yeah,
really good.
for
Cool.
sure. So, yeah,
Awesome.
I don't know.
Well,
Sometimes I think I've joked before about that we need like a swap day. Like, remember that show? It was like Wife Swap or something where
mhm.
like these two, like, I feel like it'd be like, okay, you come run my garden center and I'll come run yours. Or like,
Yeah,
and just like, and then you learn to appreciate, the staff you have or the customers you have or the amenities your garden center has that, this other one doesn't. It's like, oh, they don't even have a forklift. How hard is
right.
that? Like, sometimes it's, putting yourself in other people's shoes too is a good
That's
way to
true.
appreciate what you've already got.
No, that's true. I feel like you are very good at appreciating what you have. At least every time we've ever talked, it's been generally positive. Yes, you might have some annoyances. You might be ticked off at one nursery one day, but in general, you're very positive about how things are going. And I think that speaks highly of how you manage yourself within that business because you could be jaded. You could be grumpy all the time, I'm
You
sure,
could be.
but
You
you're not.
could be. I'll leave that to my dad. No,
There you go.
what would be the fun in owning a business if you didn't have, random, I shouldn't use this expression, but fires to put out
Right.
or, like that's just part of being an entrepreneur is like
Yeah.
the just stuff that happens. And you're like, okay, well, new plan for the day, for the week, for the month. Like now we're going to deal with this. And that's, that engages your creativity and your problem solving and then when you look back about, gosh, we made it through the pandemic, we made it through a fire, we built this new greenhouse, we changed a POS system, which shouldn't be that hard, but it's insane. And like when you look back on those accomplishments, yeah, we just need to change our mindset. I should write a self-help book and then, yeah,
You could self-help book for
be
garden center owners.
positive. Yeah.
There's a
And
market for that for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
something
Well,
like that for sure.
Well, Kate, this has been great. I knew it would be. Before we close, I got one last question
Oh, that's a
that I
great
think will be an
question.
interesting one to end on. What is something you guys are doing at Wallace's in 2026, planning for 2027 that you're excited about? I figure we could talk just one more thing about business before we wrap it up. But what's
One more
what's
thing.
something you're really excited about or is getting you guys fired up?
Oh my gosh. I wish that wasn't a surprise. I think one big thing, and it kind of started in 24, 25, was we have this kind of expanding commitment to being more of a part of our community. And
Yeah.
so over the last year, I hired a full-time community outreach coordinator. And like right now, she's doing a field trip with a bunch of kids that are painting birdhouses out in the nursery right now. And
Okay.
so, and we like last weekend we had, there's a really cool locally owned store here called Zero Waste Reserve. It's all like eco-friendly products and bulk household products. And she set up a pop-up in our store. And so we've been finding other community partners and, and food trucks and but just other businesses. This weekend we're doing a coneflower promotion with our local Dairy Queen that if you spend X amount of money on coneflowers, you get, free ice cream at Dairy Queen. So the staff has been really excited about like the way we partnered with both nonprofits and with other, locally owned businesses. So, and part of that is like my Chamber of Commerce
Hmm.
hat, I think, and looking at that, but and just wanting to be, the customers when you talk to them, they're like, oh, you're like when we had our fire last year. So many customers were like, oh my gosh, they're a community pillar. They've been here since I was a kid. We heard over and over again what a part of the community we are. And
Yeah.
so as a staff, we kind of decided just to lean in even more and try to have more events and not just Christmas and a fall fest, but
Yeah.
have the Easter bunny, have something, for the 4th of July, have something for Father's Day, Mother's Day, like just, constant reasons for families and customers to come back, not just for shopping, but for for other things. And so that's probably my most exciting thing. We also we had this fire and we rebuilt a new greenhouse, new production area. So everyone's, this year it kind of got put into service right at the end of March. And so we made it work, but now we can actually plan and really use it to its fullest potential. So like Lisa was back there yesterday dragging benches around and wants to change the bench setup back there. So they're very excited to work that new construction into an even better, process and better retail environment using their new toy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you know what? That's why I asked that question. I knew you guys had cool things going on. I love the community involvement. I like how you started that by saying that it's exciting for the staff, because that right there, you're getting it, you're going to eliminate any sort of burnout by making, exciting, fun family activities in the garden center every couple of weeks. So that's awesome. I love it. But I feel like we could talk all day.
We could. I know. Well, we will in a couple of weeks. I'll see you again. So
that is true.
I feel like I talk to you all the time because I listen to all your podcasts. So.
Well, and I see what you guys are doing on Facebook and all the Cubs games and how your son's doing. So I do feel like we catch up virtually, but
yes,
but it's nice to see your face, and it's nice to have a chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill.
But we should probably hit stop on this one. But thank you so much for your time today. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thanks. Good things to think about.
Definitely. And I think this wraps up this episode of Tech on Demand. I cannot close without reminding you to subscribe, like, and share the podcast with your peers. There are more than 250 episodes in the archive covering a wide range of topics, something for everyone. Today we talked horticulture, garden center retail, landscape. We did not talk CEA, but we probably could have. And there's a whole lot more. So take care out there.